Hello, I'm Justin Moore, and I'm here to discuss Greek architecture. In ancient Greece, there were many architects, a person who designed, planned out, and oversaw the construction of buildings, such as Phidias, a Greek architect who designed statues for temples and is known to be one of the greatest classical Greek sculptors. He designed such creations as Zeus at Olympia, in a temple dedicated to the god. Phidias also designed the Athena Parthenos monument, standing in the Parthenon located in Athens. The Parthenon is one of ancient Greece's best examples of their architectural abilities, and was co-designed by Ictinus and Callicrates. Monuments such as Zeus at Olympia or Athena Parthenos are large sculptures and were often constructed out of ivory plates and gold panels, placed over top of a wooden framework that had to be thoroughly planned out in order to maintain a stable figure when the statues are so large, making these monuments a perfect example of Greek architecture. Other buildings and temples were often built out of limestone, while columns were made out of marble. Greece had an abundant amount of these materials. The design of a building was the most important component of its construction. If it was not thoroughly planned out, the building may fall down or collapse. Greek temples were often held up by columns spread out across the area. There were most notably three different styles of pillars: the Doric style, which was sturdy, plain, and simple, showing a solid fluted column without a base and a square slab resting on a rounded molding, which was often used by mainland Greece, Italy, and Sicily. The Ionic style, which was thinner and more decorated, featuring a base column with scrolled shapes called volutes at the top of the shaft on either side, found in eastern Greece, and the Corinthian style, fully decorated at the top with acanthu leaves and spirals and had fluted pillars, but this was rarely seen in Greece. Instead, it was more found commonly in Roman temples. The Parthenon itself is one of the greatest architectural accomplishments in Greece. The building was co-designed by Ictinus and Callicrates and stood almost 14 meters in height, 30 meters in width, and 70 meters in length. Columns on the interior of the structure were necessary to support the roof. It is a Doric-style building with Ionic architectural features. Ictinus designed other structures such as the Temple of Apollo at Messae. Callicrates as well was the architect of several buildings, such as the Temple of Athena Nike. Most unique architectural buildings were made to represent a god. Even simple things such as Greek homes like the Athens are examples of architecture. They had to be planned out and designed, otherwise they might just collapse on themselves. Athenian houses were often 2 stories and made out of sun-dried brick. They had a tiny kitchen with no chimney, only a small hole in the roof to let the stove smoke out. There were rarely windows on the first floor and had no plumbing. There was no fireplace, and the only heating was usually a dish of burning charcoal. There was a broad, open court in the center of the house, which often divided into different apartments. Temples such as the Parthenon and many others were often located in the Acropolis of a city, a fortified citadel. Monuments like Zeus at Olympia had to be well constructed and planned out. It stood 13 meters tall and had to be able to support its weight. Most temples were rectangular and were roughly twice as long as they were wide. The magnificent sculpture of Zeus at Olympia was constructed around 435 BC and stood until its destruction during the 5th century AD. The Parthenon was struck by a mortar in 1687 that caused the gunpowder stored inside to explode, bringing most of it down to rubble and causing the stones to crumble. Today, most Greek sculptures and buildings lay in ruins. Time has not aged them well. Surviving through all the natural effects, some monuments were stripped of all their gold and sold, and some were torn down as wars and conflict went by. Not many of the masterpieces remain intact today. We have learned a lot from these designs and continue to learn from them as past. Thank you for listening.